Good evening. Welcome to Love Talk. My name is Gregory Morgan, and I am here to answer your questions and take your calls and to speak with you about what works and doesn't work in relationships. My wife and I do seminars and workshops like the ones that you have seen in the ad just before the show, and we do those all over the world. And so it is our great pleasure to share what we've learned about relationships. We also cover things like addictions, and because addictions are a relationship issue, really. Many people think that an addiction is something that happens alone or in isolation, but in truth, it happens inside of a system. And that system is a support system that is most commonly supported by the people that are the closest to the person who has the addiction. So an addiction is actually really a system that requires the support of family and friends in ways that are codependent. So we also we include talking about addictions and really give you some pointers on how to interact with your children, whether they're small or getting to be young adults, and also how to deal with your parents. So we cover a wide range, and of course in a show like this, I only have a short amount of time to share with you as much knowledge as I can and as much insights as I can. So sometimes you might see that I talk a little quickly because I want to cover a lot of territory. And also, in a short program like this, we could cover a lot of subjects on a very shallow level, sort of like sample some things and talk about some things, or we could pick a subject and we could go deeply with it, and that's what I like to do. Personally, I like to look into the issues that people have in their relationships that I see come up in with my coaching clients and with the people in our seminars and workshops and in our therapy sessions. I see the most common threads that run throughout those things that have people continually be in what I call a downward spiraling loop, where the same problem continues to repeat over and over. Here it comes again, and then it sort of goes away for a while, and then you find a solution, but here it comes again. And that loop tends to spiral downwards into ultimately there is no more affection or affinity left between the people. The communication gets broken, and so people aren't talking, communicating, sharing anymore. Ultimately, they begin to live in separate realities, like the man or the woman will live in a completely different interpretation of what their life is about and what their dreams and goals and values are. And so there will be really nothing to talk about. So there will be a break in affinity, a break in reality, and a break in communication, and ultimately there will be a break in integrity. Somebody will finally say, look, I'm not getting what I need here, and I'm going to do whatever it takes so that I'm fulfilled, because obviously that's not happening in this relationship. So ultimately, those relationships tend to break apart. You know, I'm defining the problem here a little bit, or defining how the issues look a little bit, but I want to delve in today a little bit about what it is that have people come together in the first place. That's one thing. But what has people continue to stay beyond their survival needs, okay? Beyond their neediness, beyond getting their food and clothing and shelter and making sure their financial needs are met? What has people continue to stay for a lifetime of sharing, in which each person grows and prospers and finds their self-expression within the relationship? And it doesn't mean that you have to, there's this idea in romantic relationships that you somehow two souls that are incomplete that come together and merge together as one to become one loving entity. I'd like to point out that that's a little bit of magical thinking. That's a little bit of short-sightedness, because if we just look at what's so, if we just look at the truth about life and the truth about things, it's easy to see that while that is a great projection, while that's a great fantasy, while that's a good idea, and it's really wonderful when that happens in your life, that those type of relationships never last. They have a shelf life. They have a time period. They have a beginning, they have a middle, and they have an end. And the end of that is rarely the end of your life, unless one of you does something bad to each other. But ultimately, if you live a natural full span lifetime, it's rare that you would ever fall in love and stay what we call in love throughout an entire lifetime and have that continually stand up to the everyday rigors of life, you know, the raising the kids, the paying the bills, the getting the car fixed, the going shopping, the family stuff. Most romances cannot stand up to that, to the normalcy of everyday life, because the idea of romantic love is in and of itself a projection. It is a projection, and from one point of view you may say, well, it's a projection of one's inner spiritual world, inner idealism, inner romantic notions, the wonderful magical feelings that are all mixed in with some hormonal stuff about sexuality, and those things get woven together and projected onto another human being, and that human being takes on, accepts for a while, to become that, to manifest, to become that projection of your ideal man or woman, and to carry that projection. Now, no human being could ever carry that projection forever, because it is part fantasy and part reality. As that begins to fade and disassemble itself, you're left with a normal human being for the most part, with flaws, with good parts and bad parts, with parts about them that are just absolutely wonderful and other parts about them that you really don't like, parts of them that is so easy to be with and other parts of them that you would rather not even have them around. That is what most normal human beings have. You and I, normal human beings, and you have an identity, and you have to go to work or make a living or raise the kids or eat or sleep or have sex or any of the things that people do in order to be in the world and to be what anybody would call, from looking from the outside, that's a normal person just doing their thing. As long as you have one of these identities, and as long as you're a human being, you're going to have problems, you're going to have issues, you're going to have bad habits and good habits. You're going to have things about you that you're working on and that you wish you were better at. You're going to have some things that you're going to want to try to hide that you don't want anyone to know about. You're going to have some things that you're proud of that you want everybody to know about. So, in other words, a human being is a complex thing. After all the fantasy and after all the romanticism and after all the projections and after all the psychological and emotional angst and suffering, you're left with a normal human being who either you can find in your heart to love them, to be for them, to be on their side, to look for the best in them, and to call forth the best in them by acknowledging them, supporting them, appreciating them, and bringing forth your best and working on those things about you that you need to work on. You got to do that anyhow. That's where true love begins to develop. That's where long-lasting love begins to develop. The possibility of you and I wandering through life, bumping into such a person, meeting them in the first place, and then somehow managing to get through the first date and the second date and whatever else it takes to eventually get to the altar and get married, and then get through all of those first year of marriage and the having of children and buying a house or whatever it is that is the manifestation of your relationship. Once you get through all of that, the chances of you or I accidentally discovering the keys to a lifelong relationship are very narrow. It's very thin. It's not likely to happen without some help. And that's why we do this show. That's why we do the seminars and workshops, and that's why my wife and I have a private practice here in Los Angeles in which we actually coach individuals and couples one-on-one, and families as well, on an individual basis, either in our office or sometimes it's over the phone. My preference these days has been Skype. And so I do private sessions on Skype where we're actually sitting together one by one. I don't always wear a tie, but we're literally sitting, and this right now you can see me, I can't see you. But when we do our Skype session, we're literally sitting face to face, one-on-one, and all it requires is that you have, of course, a computer with a high-speed internet connection and a camera on your computer, which most computers come with this day. So if your computer doesn't have that, we can still speak on the phone or through Skype. You just won't be able to have the image, and I find that it's really helpful when we can see each other. There's a lot more understanding that goes on, because the truth is, most communication, and you might want to take a note about this, like 57% of all communication is nonverbal. Right now, as I'm speaking, you're hearing the words, but you're also learning something from seeing my eyes and seeing my face and my hands and how I'm speaking. And there's another part of the information that I'm transmitting to you that has to do with the tonality of my voice, how I'm using my voice. I'm not talking like a robot, or I'm not talking really excited like Anthony Robbins, you know, or I'm or I'm not talking like your school teacher, right? I'm speaking like a normal person, hopefully, and I'm speaking in such a way as to have you want to be engaged in thinking your own thoughts. Really not just sitting there thinking, but actually considering what I'm saying and trying it on in your own life. You know, what I'm saying is really based on my experience in life. And so I'm sharing with you my experience from working with thousands and thousands of people, and also my experience from having been in many relationships that have failed, some that have been successful. So I'm sharing with you my experience, and I'm asking you to try this on for yourself and see how this works in your own life. Now, I've got some calls, so I'm going to go ahead and take some calls, and then we'll discuss some things about values, commitments, and dreams. That's what keeps us together. Our values, our commitments, and our dreams. Hello, this is Gregory, and you are live on the air with Love Talk.
Good afternoon, Mr. Morgan.
Good afternoon.
I do have a question for you.
How can I help you?
Mr. Morgan, I have a 30-year-old son that he is very lonely person. We lived in another state before. He had a few friends, about maybe 3-4 friends for years and years. And then we moved to the new state. He's not able to make a friend. He does not have any girlfriend. It's hard for him to get close to someone. He's working, and he is very good in the job that he's doing, but he's always work and then comes home, his room, computer, no friends. He's not able to make a friend. I know that he wants to because he likes, for example, doing a bowling, going picnic, but there is no one that he can get close to.
Well, let me ask you, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Yes. It sounds like he's still living with you.
Yes, he does.
Is there some economical reason why he must live with you?
Yes, for now, yes. Before he lived in dorm, you know, for a couple of years, he did not live with us. And then now, when we moved, he comes with us to another state, and yes, he lives with me.
Okay. I know that in your culture it may seem normal that a 30-year-old man would live with his parents, but honestly, in nature, in natural societies, and in many, many cultures across the world, in most cultures, that is not normal at all. So in many ways, he has not yet matured and become a man. And one of my first point of evidence for that is that he's living with his parents at 30 years old. I'm going to say that the issue is more with the parents than it is with the man, because the natural movement of life and of a masculine man is to get to a certain age and want to move away from his parents. That would be a natural evolution of wanting to stand on his own 2 feet, have his own place, you know, and eventually make a connection with a woman of his choice and move towards a relationship with a woman that is more of a man to a woman than a boy to a mother. Right now, he's married to his mother.
I understand, but I mean, he had the practice before. He was few years somewhere else, and still it was the same thing. No friends, nothing. Just when he came back home, he had his old friends in the neighborhood, and from the childhood, they were together. And now, as you mentioned before, because of the economical problem, because of economy, he lives with me temporarily.
Okay, and the other thing is that I don't hear a man calling me saying, hey, listen, I'm having trouble making friends. Do you got any things that you can point out to me that I can learn and develop and grow myself? I hear his mom calling for him and saying, what can I do? My son's problem, my adult son, who normally would be living on his own and raising his own children, that's living at my house, is having a problem making friends. You see? And what can I, you, the mother, do about it? Honestly, my best advice to you is to encourage him to get out on his own 2 feet, and really kind of set a time limit on how long he can live there in your house, because you're not doing him any favors. You're not doing him any favors by shielding him from the world. Part of becoming a man is going out and testing yourself against the world and taking a few hits, maybe falling down and failing a couple of times, and then finding your own inner strength to stand back up and do what must be done in order to better your life, in order to realize yourself as a man, in order to have something to bring to the table if you would like to have a high-quality woman in your life. And by a high-quality woman, I mean a woman who knows who she is, what she wants, where she's going, and who is willing to share her femininity and her beauty and her body with a masculine man who's willing to protect and provide and take care of her and raise a family if that's what they choose to do. He's nowhere near that. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, he's not.
Yeah. So are you going to wait till he's 35 or 40?
I want to get rid of him. I want him to go away. I want him to have a friend and girlfriends and this and that. But he's the one who resists, and he just doesn't want to.
Well, I got to tell you something, and this is my suggestion, and honestly, I've had to do this myself, so it's not like I'm asking you to do something I didn't do. Okay? I raised a stepson, and at age 28, I had to push him out of my house. He was like, you know, he never quite got it together. His room would always kind of be messy, and he would kind of hang out and just not move forward in life. He's probably still mad at me about it, okay? It's 10 years later, and he's probably still mad at me about it, okay? But what I saw once I did that is he found himself a beautiful place down by the ocean with an apartment with a view. When I went over to visit him, the place was impeccable. It was beautiful. Everything was clean. I said, how come you never cleaned the house like that when you lived with me? He says, well, that was your house. This is my house, right? His house, his house was perfect. Everything had its place, you know. It was like impeccable, you know. And I helped him get some furniture and some things like that. But I mean, for the most part, he just took care of everything himself. His career took off. He started working. He paid all of his bills and his credit cards and everything on time. He was impeccable with his accounting. In other words, he started owning his life. But as long as I was handling it, heck, he could never have enough money to pay for anything, and it was always messy, and you couldn't count on him and stuff like that. Now he runs his own life. He's got his own thing going, and he's become a scuba diver. He started taking pilot lessons. He got an architect license. In other words, he took over his life, and I had to push him out.
I'm gonna kick him out.
I had to push him out. As lovingly and as I could. Okay, I said, "Here's a pickup truck. Let's put your stuff in it."
Okay.
All right, it was tough, but I recommend that you do that. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes, there's something called tough love. You know, one of the distinctions that we discuss in our seminars and workshops is ruthless compassion, and a lot of people balk at the word ruthless, and by ruthless I mean whatever it takes. Okay, being ruthless doesn't necessarily mean to be mean. It means without regard for how somebody feels about it. In other words, sometimes when you love someone, you have to risk being rejected by them, risk having them upset with you, having them not speak to you, having them say bad things about you in order to have what you know is the right thing for them happen. You take a stand for something, and you take a stand for something that's for their highest good, obviously. You know, ruthless compassion doesn't mean I'm just going to be ruthless with you. Ruthlessness without compassion is just meanness. Compassion, on the other hand, without ruthlessness is codependence, as far as I can see, and in a situation where, oh, well, he's my son, I love him, I wouldn't want him to be hurt, I don't want him to get to fail or to have challenges in life, that's compassionate. Congratulations, that is a human quality that I hold in high regard. However, without the ruthless part, you're just being weak. You're allowing somebody to take advantage of your compassion. So that's what I got to say about that. I'm going to go ahead and take some calls. Hello, this is Gregory. You are live on the air with Love Talk.
Hi, Mr. Gregory.
Hi, how are you?
Actually, I have a question. I just don't know what is the purpose of my life. I don't know how to find that.
Very good. It's not good that you don't know the purpose of your life so much, but it's good that you've come to the place in your life where you realize that. Because a lot of people live a life without purpose, and they don't even question that. You know, they're just really waking up in the morning because they didn't die the night before. They have no really reason to get up or go do anything. So now you've come to the conclusion, I don't know what the purpose of my life is. That's actually a good awareness, yes?
Yeah.
All enlightenment, all breakthroughs in thinking, all advances in humanity have come from an initial awareness like the one you're having of, what's this all about? I don't know. And then you begin an inquiry. You begin looking. Let me ask you, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you believe, and either one's okay, there's not a right answer to this, either answer is fine. Do you believe that there is a purpose for your life, like a destiny or a purpose for your life that's out there, and that you must go and discover it, which that's one kind of way of thinking about it, yes? Or are you the kind of person that also, that may believe, the purpose of my life is whatever I say it is? I decide what the purpose of my life is. Which one of those seems to match your thinking?
Actually, since you said it, the second one sounds better. I never thought about that one before.
Well, it sounds better, but is that...
I was always waiting for something happen to see why I am even here.
Okay.
But now, since you said the second part, yeah, it makes me think.
So that sort of resonates with you. The purpose of my life is what I say the purpose of my life is. That sounds true to you? That works for you? Remember, there's no right answer. Either answer is okay. So that I'm just confirming that that's what sounds good.
Problem is, I don't
that sounds
even
right for you?
know that part. I don't even
well,
know
that's okay.
I want.
I know you don't know yet, but this is a beginning inquiry into the thing. So it's like if I was your travel agent and you said, I want to go on vacation, and I would ask you, well, let's see, do you like to go down by the beach and the ocean and stuff like that, or would you rather be in the mountains? So now you've told me, well, I like it by the beach, for example, just to use a metaphor. Yes? So now I can talk to you about that. So if the purpose of your life, and listen, that resonates with me too. I'm like that. I'm not certain that there's some ultimate purpose to my life that I must go find it and it's hidden from me. I believe that we have been living, and listen very carefully to what I'm about to say because there's several layers to what I'm about to say. I believe that you have been living the purpose of your life all along. Surprise, right? It's kind of like who's buried in Grant's tomb, right? You've been living it all along and it's unrevealed to you, and that's okay. So if the purpose of your life is whatever you say it is, the next question is this. Out of all the possible purposes that you could declare, that's the purpose of my life, do you believe that there may be one that is better than the others, that would serve you and humanity more than the others?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. I believe that too. I think that if the purpose of my life is whatever I say the purpose of my life is, that then I could choose a purpose that would serve myself and humanity, make the whole world a better place and me in the process, yes?
Yes.
That would be a purpose worth having. Yes?
Yes.
Excellent. Now, when you began to think in those terms, are there some ideas that begin to come to your mind, like the things that give you chills? You know, like when you get goosebumps, or you're really secretly, or you're thrilled about something, or it brings tears to your eyes when you, not tears of sadness, but tears of joy. You know, something that inspires you, that, and it could be anything. You might see it in a movie, or, you know, what are the things that inspire you?
You know, everything is like a very short time when I just do something, a very short time, and then I go back to the same place I was before. Just lost.
Yes, I understand.
feel so lost, actually.
Yeah.
I tried to do so many things, learn a lot of good things,
Name one.
class and all those things. But then, as soon as the class is finished or whatever, I come home, whatever, everything go back to the same thing again. And this is going on for so long, and I am so tired of it. But I don't know what to do about it anymore.
What are some of the things that inspire you?
Pardon?
What are some of the things that have inspired you in the past? It could be music or theater or kids or there's a lot of things that could inspire a person. And what are some of the things that inspire you?
When I go to the classes and stuff and learn new things.
What kind of classes?
I'm excited.
What kind of classes?
But then when I get home, most of the time I don't practice those.
Yeah, I know. You're kind of looping.
I learn a little bit, but I don't practice those.
I know. So you don't have any discipline.
Yes.
You don't have any discipline. I understand that, but now I'm going to ask you one last time, because you just said that thing twice, so I'm just pointing that out to you. 2 times I ask you what inspires you, and instead of telling me what inspires you, you instead answered a question I did not ask. You answered a question called, when you go to class, do you come home and practice? I didn't ask that question. So I asked the question, what inspires you, right? Now, I know you go to classes and you come home and you lose interest and that you don't practice those things, and so therefore they don't inspire you anymore. I know that. What does inspire you or has inspired you in the past? Can you think of one thing?
The music I liked, but so many things I did like before, I don't like them anymore.
Okay.
It looks like everything did change. I really don't anymore.
Well, I don't think it's that you don't like it anymore.
The problem is nothing really makes me happy.
Okay. Well, listen, here's what I'm noticing about you. Ever since I've been talking to you, I've noticed something. It's like you're sitting back and you're going, I'm so bored and life has got no purpose, and so why don't you tell me something? And then when you do, I'll just tell you how, no, I tried that and it didn't work, and I'm so, help me kind of thing, okay? So that's how you're coming across, okay? Now, I don't know if you come across that in your relationships with other people, but I'm telling you that in this conversation, that's exactly what it sounds like. So I'm going to need you, if you want some help, to sit up on the edge of your chair and get very, very interested in finding a solution to this. Because otherwise, I could sit here and talk to you for an hour and a half and nothing is going to happen or change. I promise. So causing something to happen takes a willingness. Now, when I use the word willingness, I don't mean like, okay, I'm willing for you to help me. Go ahead, do it to me. I'm willing. I'm not talking about a surrendering kind of weak willingness. I'm talking about willing. Have you ever willed something to happen, like used your will, like your intentionality, like you suited up and you went over there because you're going to make that happen? That's an act of will. And so change is an act of will. All change, all transformation, all learning, growth and development is an act of will. If you just sit back and say, well, I really like to grow and develop myself, but I don't know, that is not willing. Do you understand? So I need you to if you're going to find out the move forward in this conversation, I need you to get up and start being willing to make something happen, you see. And I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing, oh, in the past, in the past, in the past, in the past, in the past. What about the future? Because your destiny, your purpose in life is not in your past, I promise you. It's in your present, and what you say right now will have something to do with the future moment. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Now, I've kind of pushed you a little bit. I've had a little ruthless compassion with you just now, risking that you might go, oh, I don't like how you're talking to me, or but I'm doing it with all the love of my heart to have you get up and do something about your life, because there's nobody that can do anything about your life but you. And you have to be willing, like willingly causing it. So if you go into a class and they teach you a bunch of stuff and then you go home and you don't do anything about it, hey, you know what? It's just more junk. It's just more information. It's just an accumulation of data. You get bogged down by it, and it doesn't change anything. Information has never changed anything, ever, for anyone, really. It's what you do with the information that makes a difference. Information is just knowledge. Knowledge is just knowledge. It's basically static until you do something with it. Then knowledge becomes action. Action becomes results. Results become experience and create an environment in which one is compelled to grow and develop and expand into. And so actions, what you do with the actions, with the knowledge, is what really makes the world that you live in. So when can you do actions? The only time you can do actions is in the present moment. You can't do actions tomorrow, because you'll only, when you do them, it'll be the present moment tomorrow. Do you see what I'm saying? So what is it that, when I say what has inspired you in the past, okay, you said music. Did you want to learn music, or did you just want to listen to music, or did you want to play music?
All of them, actually.
All right.
I
Okay.
enjoy listening to it. I like to learn, but I never did to learn, actually.
Okay.
The thing is, I start everything. I did go to some classes for that too, but the problem is I never finish everything. I always, in between, I don't know what, my energy just go off or something.
Yes.
In the middle, I always let go.
Well,
Even the thing I like.
I can tell you that there is a mechanism in almost every human being I've ever met, myself included, that has that to happen. And that mechanism can be undone and reprogrammed, but it is a habitual way of being. You know, in common terms, we say a lack of motivation. I am not motivated, right? But when you study what is motivation and where does motivation come from, okay, then you get into what I was going to be talking about in the show today. So you give me an opportunity to talk about that, because motivation, what motivates somebody, is related to what, first of all, to what they value. What do you value? And that's why I ask you, what inspires you, which is another way of saying, what do you value? Some people value being rich, for example, and other people, that's not their interest. Some people value being in nature and having peaceful, quiet time to meditate or pray or read or practice some art. For other people, that is of no interest whatsoever. They'd die if they went out in the country and hung out for a month. They would be bored to death. Some people love music and dance and theater and things like that, whereas others love literary things. They love to read and paint and study art. So your interests, your values are of primary concern here. That's why I'm asking you, when you get chills from listening to a piece of music, you go, ah, wow, you know, and you get those goosebumps on your arm. That's a pretty good indication from your soul, from your body, from your neurological system that, hey, this is something that really lights me up.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm asking you to look in those times in your life when you've been lit up like that. Then we'll talk about your lack of motivation, because it begins with your values, what turns you on, inspires you, gets you going, right? Starts with that. It also continues with something that I guess you could call hope. I think it's a little more accurate to call it belief. In other words, I believe it's possible. I believe I could do this. You have to believe, have some belief in your heart somewhere that it's even possible that you could have that. If it's just clear that that's never going to happen, you know, you want to be a marathon runner, but I don't know, you only have one leg or you don't have any legs. That even now today, that's not even impossible, right? But if there's some basic impossibility for you to have what it is that you dream of, then you may not have any hope about that, you're saying? And then the other thing is dreams. So I've talked about values, beliefs, and dreams. You know, what do you dream? There's some things that I dream, and I don't know if they're possible or not. I don't know if I'll ever get around to it. I don't know if that'll happen in my life, but I dream about it. It's one of my dreams, if you will. And so those are a different category of things. And then there is a fourth thing, and that is those things that you are committed to. Those things that you are committed to are the things that you actually will have in your life. Whatever you're committed to, that's what you've got. So if you're committed to being bored, being unmotivated, to being disinterested, to not having a purpose for your life, if you're committed to that, then you will have that as a result in your life. If you're committed, like willing yourself to have a life that turns you on, that excites you, that is powerful and juicy, in which you get out of bed in the morning loving your life and looking forward to the things you're going to do today because they're fulfilling to you, they light you up and turn you on. If you're committed to that, then you will have that.
You're correct, but I never find that, actually.
Well, that's because you're committed to not finding it. And I know that that sounds unrealistic, but the truth is, it's not because it hasn't been right in front of your face your entire life. It has. That's why I say you're already living your commitments. Earlier in the conversation, I said you've already been fulfilling your purpose your whole life. If your purpose is what you say it is. I know this is a complex conversation, but ultimately, you don't know what it is that turns you on and motivates you because you have no commitment to it.
For some reason, nothing if you ask me what do I want, I don't even know what do I want anymore. I don't find anything make me happy like it used to anymore.
Okay. And could it be that those things that used to make you happy have been filled with, are now connected with a painful experience? And that's where motivation comes in. You see, if you hook up something pleasurable with something painful, every time you think of the happy thing, the painful thing will pop up along with it. I want to be in excellent physical condition, and yet I weigh 20 pounds and it's really hard and I'm going to have to diet and it's going to make me work too hard, and I really hate getting up and going to the gym, and so you just kill that off, right? So you just keep having the 20 pounds or whatever it is that you want to overcome, because you have the positive thing, which is I want to lose 20 pounds, connected with all the negative stuff that it would take you to do that. If you were able to, and this is what we do in neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis, I can't do it with you here on television, but in private sessions, what I do with people is I help them to discover what it is that they're totally passionate about, and then to remove those blockages that have hindered them and held them back and replace them with internal images that they find themselves naturally moving forward into a future where those dreams are fulfilled. And then when they run into obstacles, they overcome the obstacle. If you were going to drive from California to New York, you would run into some obstacles, yes? Yeah, it's not going to be smooth rolling the whole way. You already know that before you leave. That's why you gas up your car and you make sure you got insurance and you got good tires and you got a road map, and you call ahead and you say, I'm on my way, and so forth, right? You prepare yourself for overcoming those obstacles. And so when the obstacles come up, you go, oh, bad weather, I got to stop or go around or something, but you deal with the obstacles in life. So there's nobody that is going to give you any therapy, any magic pill, or hypnotize you, or put you through some program or therapy that is going to make you have no problems. That's never going to happen. You're never going to have no obstacles. The point of therapy and LP and all of the things that we do in our seminars and workshops is to give you the tools to empower you to move forward in your life, knowing that you're going to have issues and problems and things that are going to come up, but being fully equipped to deal with them in a powerful and effective way that keeps you moving forward so you don't get stopped, you see. Right now, you're just kind of stopped. That's what it sounds like. And what I would recommend to you is that whether it's with me or somebody else, that you actually do set up some sessions in which you actually deal with what happened in your past that is now hindering you and holding you back from having any kind of purpose, desire, dreams that could motivate you in your life. How old are you?
54.
54. Okay. I'm going to tell you something that most people don't even think about or know about. There's a time in our life in which certain things, we go through cycles in our life. And there's about 12 of them that you go through in a lifetime. And each cycle can feel like the death of an old way of being and the rebirth of a new way of being. Each cycle feels like, you may find yourself holding on to old thoughts and feelings and emotions and things that used to be as you watch them fade away into the distance and you no longer have any relevance or power to deal with them. And you may find yourself challenged by new systems and circumstances and ways of being and environments that call you to and challenge you to rise up and grow up to becoming something that you've never been before, but that you've always been moving toward. And the age that you're in is one of those times. It's very possible that for you, you're finishing a cycle and moving into a new cycle. Does that sound familiar to you?
This is going on about 5 or 6 years actually already.
Yeah. Well, they have a tradition, actually. I think it's in Korea, okay? Especially in our culture, in Western culture, they call this a midlife crisis, and both men and women have it. And the only reason they call it a crisis is not because it's a crisis for the person having it, it's a crisis for everyone around them. It's a crisis for the other people in their life who wonder what to do with this person now, right? Mm-hmm. And in Korea, when a man is moving, going through his midlife crisis, and he's sort of hanging on to the vestiges of his past life, his before midlife, and not moving into the next cycle, which is a cycle of becoming a sage, becoming a leader, becoming provocateur of thought, a teacher. In the later part of life, it is our time to teach and show guidance and leadership to the youth, yes, and to younger people. And if we're not moving into that, so in Korea, when they would find a man who was not willingly taking on this new stage in his life and was hanging on to his old way of being, you know what they do? They have these women that go and they will take like a dead fish, okay, and they beat the guy with a dead fish, and they take all of his possessions and they throw them out in the street and they give them to everybody, give them to all the neighbors, and discipline him to like get over it and move on to the next stage in your life. We don't have that, thank God. But consider yourself smacked with a fish, if you will. It's time to move on to a new stage in your life and stop looking at, oh, what's my life about, and start looking at, what am I going to provide for future generations? What have I accumulated in terms of wealth, knowledge, and wisdom in my lifetime that I can now pass on to future generations? And then start getting inspired about that. Start motivating yourself. But in the meantime, just like if you were going to go from Los Angeles to New York, you might want to like check your tires, make sure your car's working, your insurance policy's in place, make sure that you have a map or some kind of guidance system or somebody to go with you along the way. Just like if you were going to take a journey to a place you'd never been before, you would prepare for that. I recommend that for you, dear lady, you prepare for this journey, going to a therapist of some kind that can help you in completing everything that's incomplete in the past and redesigning your life in a way that is compelling and motivating, that lights you up and turns you on. And frankly, I don't know very many, okay? And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because most therapists will spend years with you talking about why you had such a bad past. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so what? That's like if do you have one of those guidance systems on your car? Have you ever got one of the? Have you seen one of those cars that has a guidance system that the map tells you where to go?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have.
Okay, you don't have, but you've seen that, right? It's not brand new technology. It's been around for a while, right? A GPS system. Think about it. A GPS system, it only wants to know where are you at right now and where do you want to go. Yes. It doesn't say, oh, because of this, that, and the other, you got to where you are at this present moment. Therefore, poor you, your life is so messed up that, we have to talk about for 30 minutes why you got this way. It doesn't care why you got where you are. It cares where you want to go, yes? Yes. So most therapy, for the last 100 years or so, has been designed around trying to figure out why the person's life got to be such a mess that it is, right? And while that's maybe some interesting information and certainly can heal a lot of things, in terms of designing a future, in terms of getting resolved in your present moment now in your life and moving forward into a life that is compelled. You know, you might live another 40 years, right? Wouldn't it be great to have a great life?
Yes.
You know, wouldn't that be great to have a great life and be surrounded by friends and loved ones that make a difference in life? Wouldn't that be something? And you could do that. So the work that I do with people is about having them get complete with the past, but like quickly. We don't spend a lot of sessions on that. We do that in one session, okay? And that gets complete so that the past no longer has a hold on you to hold you back. And then we get to work designing what is your life about right now and what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with if money, health, and all that stuff was handled in your life, what would you give the next 30, 40 years of your life for? That's the question, okay? So I need to move on. I hope this has helped. Has this made a difference for you?
Yes, actually, make me think about new stuff, actually. That was very good. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I hope that take some of this in and just sort of digest it, but then do something about it. That's been the thing that has held you back, is that you think about it, but you don't do something. Now I want you to do something about it, okay?
Yes, thank you very, very much.
All right, good. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
در کارگاه‌های آموزشی بانوان به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان با دستیابی به اهمیت و ارزش واقعی خود، قدرت زنانگی و آرامش خود را بازیابید. محیطی مناسب و هیجان انگیز برای رشد و شکوفایی عشق، ازدواج و خانواده خلق